Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. This gorgeous girl across from me is a real estate tycoon surrounded by a bunch of dudes on the hottest show. I'm talking to Tracy Tutor, star of $1 Million Listing, one of my favorite reality shows. And what a hot time for real estate it is.
It's bananas right now.
Yeah. And thank you. You've been on once before. So I was excited to have you come back. What is going on? Last time you came on my show, you had announced your divorce. And your PR people said, but you cannot ask her about her divorce.
I know.
That was a couple years ago.
Now you can.
And you are been dating your personal trainer.
Yes.
Such a cliche, I mean, if it wasn't your tennis instructor, it had to be your personal trainer, right?
Well, if I could play tennis, I would date them too.
Oh, okay. Anyway, he's gorgeous. He's obviously doing a great job with your body in more ways than one because you're like fit and you're glowing.
Yeah,
so I assume it's all
I'm-
working out.
Yeah, I'm feeling really good right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How long you guys been dating?
Oh my gosh. A year and a half.
And will he be featured on the show at all? Because you just said you're filming right now, but it's about to air soon.
He is going to be introduced this season,
Okay.
which I was a little nervous about in the beginning. And then I was like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, by the time it airs, I could be broken up. Like,
Right,
who knows?
exactly.
Honestly, at my rate, like...
What do you mean you're right? You were
I mean,
married
I
for a really long time.
Cut to, I started the show and he was gone by the end of the season. So,
Okay. The husband, you mean?
yeah.
Now, do you think that had something to do with the breakup?
I mean, he'll say that, but it was complicated. We've been married for a long time. We had 2 kids,
How old are your girls now?
15 and 12.
Okay.
Almost 13. My little one's almost 13 this month, so that's
Yeah.
kind of bananas. And the older one is like, getting her driver's permit and living her best life. and
We're
has a
taking the
boyfriend.
test tomorrow.
Are you?
Which, brings up, are the girls featured on the show?
Juliet is making a comeback this season.
Comeback?
Yeah.
I'm making a comeback.
Well,
Is she the older one?
both of the girls I took off the show when we were going through the divorce.
Okay.
And it was just something that Jason and I kind of agreed to protect them, which, sort of hurt me a little bit from like a storyline standpoint because I was like, like personal scenes were
Yeah.
like me talking to myself, like in the kitchen.
Yes.
Like,
Well,
how many times can you they're like, let's get some workouts. And I'm like, doing with who? Like talking to myself.
Yeah.
And so I lacked a personal story for a really long time, which I think, was tough. And so most of my stuff was really like work related and surrounding my, my work life. And so now this season, I think you're going to see a lot more from like my boyfriend and that experience. And my daughter Juliet is back.
she's the older one.
She's my older one. My little one is not really
Ready for
camera friendly.
Well, so I think this is a really interesting subject to talk about because, I'm not on a reality show, obviously, but like I feature my kids sometimes in, Instagrams and stuff. And in the very beginning, I didn't. Like when I worked on a television show, Chelsea Lately, I would only like photograph their backs as if someone even cared about them that much. But I don't know. I thought that was a classy thing to do. And then I was like, oh, well, whatever. They don't care. So I started to do it. And I watch all the reality shows, all the, housewives and everything.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that phenomenon of featuring the kids and how some kids are fine with it and how some kids, it's like, and so just recently I was talking to Jeff Lewis, and Jeff Lewis has a daughter with his ex, Gage. And their latest thing that they're finding about is Gage doesn't want her to be part of his new reality show.
So my whole thing with this, and I definitely had some stipulations from my ex-husband, particularly why we were going through the divorce about, the kids appearing.
Yeah.
And I think innately it was to protect them, but I
Yeah.
think that was also some semblance of control. So
Right.
I think when couples are parting ways, oftentimes it's a way for the person that isn't in the spotlight to be able to create some
Control.
control over the parenting piece and what they can't control, which is how the show is edited. Now on our show, obviously, and I think on most of these shows, they're really protective of the kids, and I have yet to see any kids shown in a light that is not desirable for them or the parent.
On your show, I have not.
Yeah.
But I definitely have on the Housewives. And I've seen, a kid be sassy and they feature that. And I've talked to the housewives and they've been like, well, that was really hard on Brooklyn or whatever.
For them to see.
Yes, for them to then go back and look bratty and,
I mean, I'd like to get my kids on films being little assholes. So
Yeah.
then I could play it for them and be like, do you see? Do you see? I mean, FYI, for all of us on these shows, like I have to look at myself and be like, ooh, that was not nice. That was, You know?
Right.
And so
it's hard. It's hard because then it's like, and I remember one of the first seasons of Real Housewives of OC, there was coincidentally a realtor, Gina Kino, or I think her name anyway.
I kind of remember.
Yeah, brunette.
Yeah.
And this is when the show was really like documentary style. The women didn't fight. We were following her life. And it wasn't really because she kind of had an interesting life. So she had 3 kids. She had the ex-husband to be. And one boy was doing like minor league baseball or something like that. And she shows up with Vicky with cameras. And he's like, horrible to his mother. And he's like, what are you doing here? I'm about to hit your head with this baseball bat. He says something awful like that. He's literally in the outfit doing it. And looking back now, when I saw it, I was like horrified. My kids were little. I'm like, will my son ever talk to me like that? I just thought it was so awful. But now I'm like, okay, you're a 19-year-old boy who's playing baseball. Like you're about to do a thing and your mom surprises you with the camera crew.
But can you be surprised with the camera crew? I don't think so. Not on any of these shows. There's no surprises.
I think it in back in those days. I think it might have been a bit of an
maybe
ambush.
That was a long time ago.
And like so, yes,
you don't do that.
Now
these
you
days.
wouldn't. Yeah, but even like taking the permits test. I was watching Real Housewives of Potomac last night, and it was a very cute, relatable scene that. Giselle had her daughter taking the permit test.
Yeah.
And she failed for the 2nd or 3rd time. And the girl came in and she was just very embarrassed. And my son is taking that test. And I'm like, ooh, he would not be happy if that had to be on TV. Him failing. That would be hard for him.
Yeah.
So I think it's like a very hard thing because I understand you as a parent working and the housewife, you want your kid there for storyline, but also it takes time away from your time that you'd have with your child.
I think that the kids have to want to do it.
Yes.
And that was one thing that Scarlett, my little one, was, she's just not a huge fan of it.
Yeah.
She makes a little appearance, on the show this season, but it's just not something she loves.
Right.
So I'm just not going to, particularly when you're like awkward and 12 and like you're like going through things and changes and like everything's just kind of like you're coming into your own, and it's like the last thing anyone needs to do is put pressure on you and smack a camera in front of your face.
Exactly.
But I think a lot of people that land on reality shows come from a background maybe in theater or, I mean, if you look at some of the housewives, it's like
they've all wanted to be actresses.
Right. Yes. So on some level, their children might be a little bit more comfortable in that environment. But I don't know. My kids don't even like it when I post, like if I post a picture of Juliet, who, by the way, is like drop dead gorgeous and about to be 16, I get in major trouble. Like, that's why most of my feed is, unless it's a birthday or a holiday, like, it has to be fully approved.
Right.
And that's the way it goes,
And I think in this day and age, that is right.
And it's fair.
It is fair.
And that's how I do it, and we have a couple agreements.
Especially when you have, a huge following,
I mean, I don't have a huge following,
but you know what I mean. You're
to
not,
them,
you're
I
not,
do.
You're not a mom with 200 friends and half of them are relatives. It's not that.
Right.
And even that people might be mad about, But yeah, I think that's good. I think that's a good way to handle today.
They're cool with it, and they're like, listen, you get a few times a year where you get to kind of insert these like things, like we will be in the finale, and we will, there's instances.
I like it that
right?
they're negotiators. They're natural negotiators like you.
1,000%. And then it's like, don't tell me what to wear. And I said, 3 times a year, I get to tell you what to wear on Thanksgiving, on Easter, and on Christmas. Okay.
That's also in the contract.
In the contract.
Yes,
and so, like, outside of that, like, I don't get to bitch at them when they want to wear jeans with holes in them and, like, gigantic sweatshirts that literally are for, like, a 6'5" man.
Yeah.
I just go, okay.
I
have to
hard,
remember.
It's hard for us to get, like you have a hot body.
Why
I'm
are
glad
you
you're not
covering it up?
dressing, like, completely promiscuously, but Also, why you dressing like a weird nerd? Like, it's just sometimes these kids, I'm like,
It's not even
all right.
nerdy. It's just like the style right now is like this weird sort of bag. It's like throw a trash bag on.
Yes.
And like
yeah.
and then with like some $800 tennis shoes.
Right.
And then that's the look. And I'm
Right.
like, all right, well, my day was like fluorescent, like triple socks and
Yeah.
weird t-shirts with belts and, Z Cavaricis. So in
Yeah.
fairness, I'm not sure what's worse.
Yeah. I don't
know.
But I think that's good. I think that's great. So okay, let's talk about your co-stars. Who is your favorite? You have Josh Altman, Josh Flagg, and then the British guys.
I love
What are
them
the British
all.
guys' names again?
James and David.
And
they're
not
so sweet.
And they're not brothers, and they're not a couple.
No,
They
are
have their
so
own families with
straight
wives.
and so. Actually, I love working with them, and I listed something with them that we were going to put on the show, and it was confidential. It was a whole fucking thing, so that didn't happen. But it was really fun because I've had some, issues with them in the past, mostly with David Parnes, and I really got to work with them on quite a few things this year, and they're just class acts. Those guys are like salt of the earth, ethical, good agents. And now, particularly in the business that we're in and the business that we're doing this year, which is just bananas, people are gross. I mean, if you could turn around and they kiss you on the cheek and then they stab you in the shoulder on the way back. And they're just not like that.
And what do you mean by realtors, like stealing clients and stealing
my
deals
God.
and
Like
coming to a house right after and being like, I actually have the buyer.
And then
You
all
don't
of a
need to-
sudden, you're bringing your clients to a house, and then
Yeah.
they're clients you've been working with for 6 months, and the next day you get a call. And luckily, I get those calls because I have great relationships with brokers. But I'll get a call like, just want to let you know, I got a call from an agent trying to get your clients into my property that you've already shown them. And I'm like, well, A, screw the client, but B,
Yeah.
I'm glad that I have those kind of relationships.
And
And James and David are just really good quality, like ethical agents. And there's not a lot of them.
When you find out that you have a client that's absolutely not being monogamous and cheating on you with other brokers, like that situation, how do you contact them? What do you do? Ding-a-ling-a-ling, I'm the woman that you've been showing me houses for 6 months.
I have
And
definitely
you found out that I'm going to see another house with Josh Altman.
Well, first of all, I'd call Josh and be like, hands off.
Okay.
And, it really depends. If you have a personal relationship with the person, then you pick up the phone, you call them, you say, what the fuck? But
Okay, when do you say what the fuck, and then what do they say?
I
'Cause,
met him at a party and
Yeah.
they told me about this thing, and I'm like, yeah, no, that doesn't work for me. I've parted ways with people for reasons.
Yeah.
Because the truth is I'm busy, and if I'm devoting my time and energy for free for 6 months, and then, you flip the switch for whatever reason, it's just not the way I've liked to work anymore. And I'm past that point. I'm 46 years old. And I just don't want to deal with it. So I part ways now. I'm just like, it's been nice knowing you. I hope you have a good time working with them. And 9 times out of 10, they'll pick up the phone and they'll call a broker and they'll be like, aren't you working with Tracy? Ooh, I don't feel comfortable doing that. She's a very good friend of mine. And I'm like,
Yeah.
But that's the thing about this business,
Yeah.
Anyways, James and David are great for that reason, but I'm probably the closest to Flagg, but I also have this very brotherly relationship with Altman. And Frederick and I, now that
From New
he's
York.
in LA.
Yeah. So now what is the deal with Frederick? He is in LA?
He
He's
is.
from Real Housewives of Million Dollar
No,
Listing-
Million Dollar
sorry,
Listing,
Million-
yeah.
New York.
Yeah.
And Real Housewives of $1 Million Listings. That could be a new one. But he's the New York broker. He had the short-lived awful show with Bethany. Sorry. May it rest in peace.
I heard.
It was like just the most. I felt like both of them agreed to do the show.
And then they were like, oh, why
And
did
then
we
they
do
were
that?
like, how quickly
Can we get it over
can we
with?
get done with this scene? Literally every scene was Bethany being like, how many dicks do I have to suck to get this house sold? And then like the next scene would be like her being like, do I have to bend over right now to get this house sold? And we're like,
How
slow
long is it?
down. Like, how many dirty things are you gonna? Then she'd get in the then get in the bathtub together. What else can we do? Okay, I'm gonna throw myself on the bed. Okay, we've been here for 14 minutes. Are we good? Can we
Don't
leave?
you just love
Did
a
you
bad
get your shot?
spinoff?
Get your shot. And I was like, what? How did that even happen?
But sometimes I feel like these shows, the chemistry comes together
Right.
with people, and you think that it's going to work in a different environment, and more often than not, I feel like it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, I watched the spinoff show, and I'm like, oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Like, your Superman outfit doesn't work in this one.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Or whatever. But I never saw Frederick's spinoff. But
Okay, so he was in New York. He has a husband. They have the twins.
and they moved here.
Oh, they all moved here.
Yes, and he travels and goes, sort of
Okay.
between New York and LA
Yeah,
and
why?
Miami.
Just because they wanted to live
I
here?
think they wanted to expand to New York, and I think that
I
Derek,
mean, to LA.
sorry,
Yeah.
to LA, and I think that Derek wanted to, raise the kids in a different kind of environment that's a little bit more friendly,
Yeah.
and not like in a high rise, in
Yeah.
the center of the city. So I think it was probably really good for them as a couple, and also the kids. Growing up in Southern California is not exactly a bad thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like frigid and like 12 below and
Right.
toddlers like walking down the street in the city trying to like sort it out.
Yeah.
So I think it was a really great decision on his part, but
So is he part of the show?
he is part of the show
Oh.
this season, and so we will have a little bit of fun with that.
Because I remember Altman and his wife Heather, they felt sort of deceived by Frederick.
Yeah. There was definitely
not
some
giving
drama.
them the heads up that he was planning on coming out here.
There is definitely some good, juicy stuff
Yeah.
in the beginning of the season
And-
towards the end.
Yes. Okay. So with with the people, I don't know if you probably don't remember this, but I was a realtor for many years. My parents were realtors, so I grew up with them, and this was in the '80s, and so everything was real estate. Every conversation was real estate. I was like, had my ears perked for
Hey,
who's
poor
moving.
thing.
I'd give my mom tips.
so sad.
I'd give out pumpkins.
If I had to live in that space, like if I
It
had
was-
parents for realtors too, I think I would just like.
It was awful because it was like you then they'd go out at night, have a 3-hour dinner. That's where they were negotiating. Then fax machines came, but still, it wasn't the way it is. Everything had to be written. It wasn't like how you guys do these deals where you just like do it on the phone and then send the paperwork later. That's like bizarre to me. That was not the case.
Yeah.
And so so yeah, I just so I love watching all the real estate stuff but the biggest thing was when you're working with a buyer, trying to get them like not to cheat, because even they would try to do these buyer contracts that never held any weight and it would
Never.
make people feel nervous. And so I just remember I would show people, and then at the end I'd be dropping them off and I'd be like, okay, that's fine, I'll keep looking in this area. And then I would say, this was like really fun. We had such a good time today. I really enjoyed it. I said, but unless you buy from me, I don't make any money. I just say that. And I'd be like, so that is why if you see something, if you go into an open house, like, here's my business card, say that you're
Right.
working with me, da-da-da. But that part's hard because then the buyers are so desperate that then some snake comes in and is like, I've got a pocket thing.
Well, and
I've got it.
particularly,
Yeah.
like in a market that we are in right now, it is bananas. And
Yeah.
I do think I have picked up a few clients along the way. And I do say things like, have you been working with someone? And a couple of the clients have said yes, but we've parted ways with them because we just feel like they can't tap into what it is that we need to find.
Yeah.
And because of that, like, we need to find an agent that has been doing it long enough who gets it.
Yeah.
And so that's a conversation that I have with them before I take them on, so that the other agent's not upset with me.
Yeah. And what has been, have you ever had, I want you to answer this question in a sec, but have you ever had a client hit on you? Okay, so have you ever had a client hit on you, whether you were married, single, with the train or not, like seriously want to date you? Like maybe that was the only reason they were wanting to look at houses.
I've had brokers hit on me and pursue me. That are married. I've had clients that have pursued me. Also married, not
Really?
married. Oh,
How
yeah.
have they propositioned you? So you're the listing broker?
It always starts with no. It's generally not like. Sometimes it's been buyers in the past,
Yeah.
but more often than not, it's been with actual clients where, where I'm taking someone out, I'm spending time with them.
Yeah.
And it, you obviously get to know people.
Right.
And then the little, inappropriate sort of flirtatious comments come and
Oh, like
you
when
let
you're
it,
going through the house and
yeah,
they're
you let
like,
it kind
ooh,
of
this
roll
shower's
off your
big enough for
back.
two, and things like
Or
that.
they'll make a comment on, my Instagram on how amazing my body looked. And I'm like, oh, God, this is so awkward,
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had to put a few people in their place.
And what do you say then?
Well, more specifically to one client, I said, look, I really enjoy working with you and you're wonderful. I'm in a relationship and so are you. So you got to start toning it down,
And then what do they do?
it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable. But I
Anyway,
believe,
did that
I'm
result
sorry.
in a sale after you said that? Because
Yeah.
I think it would be so, okay. So
As a matter of fact, because then once you put it out there, particularly if they're married,
yeah.
I'm
Now-
all about the wife. So,
Yeah.
and I actually just picked up a really great new client who fired their previous agent because that agent was texting the husband on the side and saying sort of semi-inappropriate things. Like, for example, in my friend group, we have fuck buddies. If I said that to one of my clients that was married and I put that in writing, I in my opinion, that wife deserves to knock me out. I found I was.
Okay,
I looked,
so wait, hold on.
I looked at the wife, and this is a new client.
Yeah.
She sat me down, and she's like, I was just really uncomfortable, and I just didn't know really how to handle it. So I talked to a friend of mine, and she knew you, and she, suggested you, and I said, did you confront her?
Confront the realtor, yeah.
And she said, no, not really. I mean, I said to her on the side, if you want to work with us, you probably should text me as well as, my husband because, but she didn't address specifically the inappropriate nature of the comment.
Do you imagine if she said,
So I can't wait.
do you imagine if she would have said to her, since we're both working with you, if you could just put us on a group text. Oh, and by the way, no, I don't have any fuck buddies. Do you imagine then?
Well, no,
I
I have a feeling because I know this girl.
The realtor.
So I have a feeling that when she sees that I'm going to sell them about $50 million in real estate this year, and it comes to her that she lost out on that, and she calls me and she's pissed off about it, I'm going to say, when you started texting the husband about fucking, I think it was probably game over for you. And I have no problem saying that because I don't like
Yes.
inappropriate women.
Totally, that's
And I don't think
horrible.
it's right. And, I am a girl's girl. And so I will
Also,
always...
what an idiot. Even if you had the best dick on earth, why would you even jeopardize commission?
Because women are desperate and men are pigs. So, you put the two together and there you have it, right?
Oh, my God.
And I think as women, you have to kind of protect each other from that shit.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think I'm in with the wife. I'm like, because I said to her, I go, that is absolute bullshit.
God. That's horrible. Now, you've been on what season? How many seasons have you done now? Of,
This is my 4th season.
And were you a fan of the show before you were on it?
I watched it a little bit, not a ton. I was more of a housewife fan.
Yeah.
Because it was an escape for me. The last thing you want to do is come home and watch real estate after
Right,
talking
yeah,
about it all day long.
yeah.
But I enjoy the show. I just I enjoy the drama. I enjoy the characters more
I
than
call
I
it real estate porn.
It is real estate porn, but I
Yeah.
I think the characters are more interesting
totally.
than the houses.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the
And
house is
that's
just
why I
the
love
fun.
Flag.
Yeah.
When we're in a room together, the cameras just roll and everybody's like, there's no editing this. The two of us together are.
Speaking of Josh Flagg, he got obsessed with your dog.
Oh, God.
And was he basically stealing it?
100%.
So he'd go to your house and let himself in and then take the dog out for the day?
100%. Or there were moments where I'd be like, you can take him for the night because he just loved Jake so much.
Yeah.
That he would take him for the night, but then he wouldn't give him back, which is what happened, I believe, when you were at a dinner party at his house the other night or a couple weeks ago
Yeah.
or something. And Jake was there and I called.
But now he has his own dog, right?
Yes, he called my breeder and got the dog. And then the first dog that showed up was not in line, shall we say, appropriately with what Flag was looking for. So he sent it back.
Okay.
And then the new dog came.
Okay.
Who looks a little bit more like Jake. I mean, he tried to clone Jake. He would like to clone Jake.
Okay.
And so he's mental. What can I tell you? He's a nutbag. He won't give me my dog back. So finally now he's got George.
So now he has his own.
So we're going to have them meet, and we're going to have a little family gathering, and hopefully they'll get along.
The 2 dogs.
Yes.
But they're both men.
Yes.
So even if they wanted to, they couldn't procreate.
No.
But they could have a beautiful life in Los Angeles
I can't let my
together.
animals procreate with anyone related to Josh Flag.
Oh, okay. Really? So if he had gotten a girl dog, you still wouldn't allow it to happen?
Then I'd have to raise fur babies
and then
with
be
him.
tied to
Are
him
you
forever?
joking? I feel bad enough for Bobby. No.
Now, do you think why do you think Josh Flag is so obsessed with old people?
That's his niche.
I mean,
we did a whole thing on that. When we were in the car, we were driving to a listing together that he invited me on because he didn't know where it was. And we were talking about this, and I'm like, you like near dead people because when they're close to dying, they have to sell all their real estate.
Yeah.
And it's a really good market. And they love him is what I think.
Well, I think he's like an old soul.
He is an old soul. And I think he finds that people that have lived long, interesting lives,
yes.
far more interesting. But
Yeah.
he's also just a completely different type of human altogether. But I think that realistically, the people that like him most are older.
Yeah.
It's not a one-way street. I think sometimes people his age are what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You're strange. And
well, they went on this big fancy European trip.
Yeah.
And I went out to dinner with them after, and I said to Bobby, he goes, well, it was just a great trip for us. We had the best time. We didn't argue at all. We had the best time,
So
and it was
great.
such a great time. And he goes, but for Josh, there weren't enough old people that wanted to sell their houses that he met in Europe for him. He
was disappointed.
Yeah, he's whatever hotel they were at, Josh Flag was I didn't think it was so great. He's because there were people our age there. There was nobody that you could ride up on and talk to.
He'd much rather be at the Polo Lounge with the 75 and over crowd than at Craig's. It's just not his MO, which I actually appreciate because he's so marches to the beat of his own drum.
Yeah.
It's why I love him.
Yes.
And I think because of that, it makes him different and interesting. And for someone his age to have that kind of to be like that.
That's his soul.
Nuts,
yeah.
He doesn't care, which I love that.
He's hilarious.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Real Housewives, I was just talking to the attorney that is involved in the Tom Girardi, Erika Jayne case. Mm-hmm. And we did talk about how that house is not selling. And, and he's like, I don't think that Tom Girardi should be able to live there because it needs to be empty or staged or whatever. You have an elderly man that supposedly has dementia living there. I can't imagine how hard it is to show a house like that. Have you heard of anybody that's looking or trying to get on that house, or what's your opinion on all that?
Isn't it in Pasadena?
Pasadena,
It's
listed at 10 million or 9 something now. It's gone down.
So it's
started
reduced.
at 13.
It was a little high for Pasadena.
Yeah.
No, I haven't heard anyone that's trying to get in there, or I don't have any good gossip about it.
Yeah.
It's tough.
But wouldn't that be hard if that was your listing? Not
does
only do
he
you
have
have
dementia?
a scandal.
I'm clearly not following
he's
close
saying,
enough.
He's saying that he does, and he has a conservatorship. Some people think he's doing that so that he's, kind of now no longer really responsible and probably won't go through a criminal case.
Well, he is an attorney, so there's that.
But then they just showed a photo of him, and he looked awful, and then he had a black eye, which when you see a black eye on an old person, it's that they didn't get in a bar fight. They fell or something. So
that could be from stress.
Losing the weight could be from stress. Yeah.
He was living his best life about 10 months ago, wasn't he? So I don't know. He didn't have dementia then.
Right.
I don't trust any attorneys. I think they're all assholes. I don't like attorneys. I won't ever date an attorney, marry an attorney.
Is it hard to have attorney clients?
Yeah, I don't really generally like to represent
really?
attorneys. No.
You'll turn it down sometimes?
Yeah.
And
they're more work then they screw up my life. They don't fix it.
Yeah. And when do you know that somebody is going to be difficult and you like pull the plug? Because that's kind of hard, especially in real estate, because you know someone's difficult, but like you feel like the finish line is right there. But then at a certain point, you're like,
I've screwed
this
that
isn't
up.
going to change my lifestyle, whether I get this deal or not. So I need to just get rid of this person.
I've screwed that up like royally many times where I've been like, oh, just suck it up. Or this guy has such an ego, but you know how to deal with male egos. This is this is your freaking specialty.
Right.
And then like 6 months into it, like my whole staff is crying. Everybody's like overworked. Like there's like abuse happening. You know, it's like awful.
Yeah.
And that's when you're like, oh, whoops, I should not have taken, you know.
Yeah.
You learn, but I think each situation is different. And I think sometimes people don't present themselves. They put their best foot forward, you know, when they meet you. And then you discover the dark side when it's almost a little too late.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of sort of reading people and seeing past it. I've had a lot. I mean, I walked away from $500 million in real estate on the show last season with Scott Gillen, who was a Malibu developer.
Oh, that's right. That Malibu.
Yeah.
We remember that, seeing that house.
Yeah. So after the show ended, everybody was wondering what the hell happened. Well, we had to cut that whole thing short because he like lost his mind and was threatening everybody, and we just decided
I saw that, and
it was bad.
That would be a nightmare.
It was awful.
And then, did that place ever sell?
No, it's still on the market. So thank God I walked away.
Yeah, because it's too far from the water for that price, no matter what, don't you
It's
think?
just not well done.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that was pretty juicy. And then, now, how do you feel about, because I had this conversation with two Joshes. So, you know, it's such a crazy market and people wanting to, you know, move. But then if you're not sure, how do you feel about buying another place but keeping your old place and renting it out? The two Joshes said that's the dumbest thing that someone like me could ever do, because I'm going to get a lot of money for it right now. And
Right, it's the top of the
might as
market.
well just get it. But then this other part of me is like, well, if I bought something else and kept my current house and rented it out, like in 8 or 10 years, you know, when things are even more crazy, here's a great location, a perfect lot. Even if I had to knock the house down 10 years from now, or my kid did, like the location has been wonderful forever. So like, I don't know.
You have to take a few things into consideration.
Yes.
One is what's your return on investment on your rental income? So what's your cap rate on that? So take into consideration your mortgage. They don't talk about this stuff because they're not as smart as me.
Yeah. Yes.
So take into consideration your mortgage, your taxes, your insurance, and your deferred maintenance that you'll have to do annually. And then you have to clear all of those things and then make some sort of money on top of it. Otherwise, you're just sitting on property. And depending on the location, you have to remember, like, if we're talking about a certain part of Woodland Hills, if we're starting to see massive growth happening, you know, in that area, then arguably over the course of 10 years, your land is going to be worth more potentially than the house.
Right.
So you have to remember also that holding onto a house 10 years, you know, you've got a 10-year-old house. If it's brand new today, it's 10 years old.
It's very old. It's old now.
So it might not look good to begin with. So
then
you have
knock
to weigh
it down in 10 years and start all over. Give my kid some smart house he can enjoy.
Right. Well, if the land is going to be valuable and you're starting to see sort of the neighborhood, you know, doing bigger and bigger numbers, arguably every single year, then it might be something you'd want to hold on to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, sell the property at the top of the market and invest in an income property in an area that's going to bring you higher returns.
Okay. That's good. Good thought.
Right? Because you can always hand them a condo, you know, in Marina Del Rey that has an ocean view, because they're not going to be able to manage a house for many, many years to come.
Yeah.
And that property could be bringing you easy income, is no work for you because it's a condo, not a house. You're not dealing with deferred maintenance. The building is,
right,
et cetera.
And then I just saw this thing. I don't even know how this works, but like, you know, now they're saying no one has to pay rent or whatever, another 2 months. So I'm always like, you know, no one's talking about the person that owns that property that now can't collect rent because of these COVID rules. Maybe that was that person's like whole way of living.
Right.
No one's talking about the property owner. They're just like, they just assume everyone who owns a property is super rich or something. Like, they
I don't want to get political, but thanks, California.
Yeah,
I mean,
like that
you
doesn't
know,
seem right.
No, it's not right. And,
You know,
and it
it's-
shouldn't be that way. And we have a big,
And there's
big
no way
problem.
to prove that the person can pay or not. So I was like, so what if I'm renting a house for $20,000 a month?
Yeah.
And I have minors living there, children.
Right.
So therefore, guess what? I just can't pay.
Yeah.
You can't kick me out.
So yeah, that's why you should sell your house.
But I'm also going to be in line at Gucci with everybody else buying my Gucci shoes.
Yeah.
But I can't pay your rent.
I think there's
like-
been some restrictions that have been put in place, and so people are being.
I think it's very tricky.
It is tricky, and we live in a very liberal state where there's a lot of things to consider when they're
Yeah.
trying to get reelected and
Yeah.
making sure that they get the vote. And because of that, there are people like you that if you want to rent your house and you get stuck, they're not really considering that.
Right.
They're protecting the tenant, which is a very dangerous place for homeowners to be. So I'm not on. I
See, that's what
personally
would sort of scare me.
It
It didn't really scare me before, and now I'm like, oh, that would just be awful. Like, one of the scariest movies I've ever seen was Michael Keaton. What is that movie called, Peter? Where he moved Pacific Heights, where he moves into the duplex in San Francisco just to torment the owners who live upstairs. Like they rent the bottom.
That's messed up.
And it's like, and so whenever I see articles about that where people like have done that.
Do you really want to be a landlord?
I guess not. Thanks for coming today.
Like it's hard enough, like taking care of ourselves. Like you really,
No,
you
you're
really
right,
have
you're
to be
right.
in a space where like you don't have any other responsibilities other than your job and like
You're right.
managing somebody that's not your child's life and well-being and that a property that you own. It's a whole like you have to be a real estate sort of person to get
Right.
really comfortable with that. I'm not. I don't want to be anyone's landlord. I don't even want to do a lease, to be honest with you. I don't want to be involved. I'm not paid enough. And
Well,
I
now,
don't
but
want
what about, do you ever feel there is a time, because of course the real estate point of mind is always like, don't piss your money away on rent, But then in other cases, I'm like, maybe sometimes it is good just to lease something for a year. And like you're making a lot of money and maybe you're just like, I don't know. I just want to live a luxurious life for a couple years. And I could afford whatever, $20,000 a month, but I can't afford $4 million or whatever that would translate to be or vice versa. So then someone is just like, I am going to rent this because there could be a tsunami tomorrow. And I would be like, why didn't I ever enjoy this money?
I don't know. I feel like if if it flies, it fucks, or it floats, rent it.
Oh, that was
Right.
that was Shep's father saying. Shep from Southern Charm.
Oh, Shep and I are on the same page. But also, in this market, it's just renting. The rental market is out of control.
Yeah.
People who aren't educated in what's happening in the market right now don't understand that by sometimes paying more than $100,000 or $200,000 over the ass means nothing to them over a 30-year mortgage.
Right.
They just feel like they're overpaying and they can't get a grasp on it. And
Right.
what they aren't going to be able to get a grasp on is what they're going to have to pay in rent to get the same house.
Got it.
Which is going to be more than their mortgage. So
Yeah.
you just you have to have an agent that's smart enough to be able to navigate explaining these things to you, because most people really don't understand the gravity of the market that we're in and that we're not going to be in it forever.
Yeah.
Like interest rates, I've been in the business 21 years. Interest rates have never been this low in the 21 years I've been in the business. So
Right.
like unless you're planning on hanging out for the next 20 years, before you kind of do, like now is the time.
Right, exactly. So now speaking of, how do you feel about all the new reality real estate shows that are happening, like Selling Sunset?
We said like one thing on Andy and
Yeah.
on like Zoom. I guess it was like right when that show came out.
Selling
and of
Sunset,
course,
yeah.
like I didn't say it first, but like I got thrown under the bus. But I was like, learn, like it's not about selling real estate. It's about, dating or something. I
Yeah.
like popped off. It was like a whatever. I mean,
Right, a
cut
throwaway,
to
yeah.
it was like all over, and then they commented, and it was like this whole big funny thing. Like, listen, whether or not they sell real estate, I really don't know. I know
But
that
you've probably worked with the Tiny Twins, right? the two guys.
Little babies. They're
Yeah.
so cute.
They're so cute.
I actually like the Oppenheims a lot. I think they do great business. They're talented guys, and they had a very smart idea.
Yeah.
And, you know, they've always had pretty young girls working for them to attract their audience, which
Right.
are bachelors in the Hollywood Hills. So, I mean, put Netflix stamp of approval on it, and you've got a great show.
Yeah.
So good for them. But
Did you hear the latest?
what, is there a new one? Oh,
No, that Chriselle and the one little one is the one that's exactly identical. Jason, they're dating.
Good for them. I saw a picture of her like rubbing his little sweet bald head.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk about someone that has clearly no type. Because she had a tall actor, okay? Then she had a hot black dancer that was her partner in Dancing with the Stars.
No, Gleb
And
was
now
her
she-
partner.
No, it wasn't. No, it was Keo.
I thought Gleb was her partner. They said that they were having an affair or something.
No, Gleb was Erika Jayne's partner. And then his wife broke up with him hinting that they had an affair. She had this guy, Keo, I believe, that's black and
No, I think that was her boyfriend. Yeah, that was like her boyfriend for a minute. I only read up on
I'm
this.
just saying
I am
she's-
only tapped into this gossip because I'm representing Gleb and Elena on the sale of their house.
Oh. Well, no, I don't think Chriselle was his partner. I think Chriselle was with Keo, and then they started dating.
Wow. I am really out of touch.
Okay.
How does one keep up?
Okay. Getting back to that. Okay. So, well, who knows if Chriselle and he are for real, but it does make the show interesting to watch. I believe it's probably true. Why not? I can't imagine someone like faking that really, you know.
No, I know.
It's like,
I'm sure
J-Lo
it's-
and Ben. I'm like, of course they're screwing. Are they doing some fun stuff with it and getting some fun PR with that? Yes. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, they're boning. Now, did you hear Kendra Wilkinson from Girls Next Door? She got her license.
Yes, she's at our company.
Oh, she's at your company.
I think so.
Well, she's got a reality show coming out too.
I'm aware.
Kendra Sells Hollywood or whatever.
Kendra sells Hollywood.
But I predicted this like 3 years ago.
That she was going to have a show?
That should become a realtor and get on a real estate reality show.
Good for her. I mean, listen.
Do you think it's sad when someone's just a realtor and not on TV?
I mean, if you're just a regular old realtor these days, like, how do you even sell property? No, God bless her. I hope she has success with it. It's a lot more than just, you know,
Wearing a cute outfit and hosting.
That's a TV show.
And the
right?
funnest part about being a realtor was when we'd have our open houses on the new listing. That was so fun. Cute outfit, catered food. You're just showing the house. And people think that's it. That's like 1% of the amount of work and the
not even like if I remember I was pitching one of my clients for the show this season. This is juicy. I was pitching a client and I go, you know, I don't really ever do like the white picket fence situation with like, you know, like a really like attractive couple and they're like their early 30s with like a pretty traditional and they have like
for them to be on the show as your client.
As my clients.
Okay.
With like 2.5 kids and yada yada. And they were like, well, that's like kind of like you always have like funny, interesting characters and like I don't know. And I'm like, I know, but it's like $6.5 million. The house is pretty, like kind of a slam dunk of a sale. And yeah, it's a little boring. Yeah, I know. Cut to, like, I get a call and he's being arrested for a Ponzi scheme and we're in escrow and the FBI is, like, contacting us. And I'm like, oh, my God, it just got so good. Like, you guys need to get over here. But obviously we didn't shoot it for the show. But, like.
Right. You never know.
That's the kind of stuff that, like, you can't be like Kendra, you know, 10 minutes into the business and be like, oh, the FBI just showed up at my listing to arrest my client, and I'm going to have to deal with the judge on why we need to close this so these people can get paid back the $600 million that's owed to them, right? Like, you have to really know what you're doing, but I applaud everybody trying to, like, do it. I think it's really hard to replace. God, that picture's awful.
I know. I'm sorry that I don't know it's so fuzzy either. I was looking for
no,
one with
it's just
you,
like,
and
I
I
was
didn't
just
like this other one that I found online.
Oof.
Anyway,
Tragic.
go on.
Anyway, it's hard to, I think, do what this show has done such a good
Yes.
job at for so many years. I mean, we're in season 13 that's about to air, and there's a reason it's successful over and over and over again, and it doesn't get old because it really is about the real estate.
Yeah.
And there is some fun drama always, and there's some really great drama this season that is very, very real.
Yeah.
But it is about selling real estate, and we're all very successful on our own without the show. So I think that's what people gravitate towards. And there's a lot of brokers that watch the show.
Right.
And so it's, I think everybody understands that it's Netflix show, like Selling Sunset is a little bit more of like a docu series, like fun, sexy.
How they're all like sitting in that wide office, as if you could really get any work done when like everyone's right next to you.
Well, they're all gorgeous.
And obviously those things are set scenes, and yours is definitely more like where they follow you around and you're not like re-walking into the doorway and all that kind of stuff, which is what I like about your show. Does Mauricio have a reality show too in the works?
I don't think so.
Sure, that'll happen soon. I've told a couple former Real Housewives that need to be on TV and don't know how to make their money. I said, you got to get your license and just get on even if you can't get on one of these shows, you got 1 million followers. You could at least tell.
I was saying I should get on the Real Housewives.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, $1 million listing is fine, but I got that carear down.
Yeah,
now let's make bikini liners. I mean, I'm 45. Body's looking good.
Yeah.
Let's get into REIT situation.
Yeah, why not? But I was like, if you have 1 million followers, and you get your real estate license, which is not easy to do. It's one of those things where you really have to study. But you get your real estate license and you learn how to do it. I'm like, you're getting a listing appointment, and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to put your house on my following with 1 million people. Only other realtors that are like on TV probably have that following. So I think for some people, it's kind of a good idea. I mean, it's that or OnlyFans. What do you want?
I would do.
Do you want to do OnlyFans?
It's a lot less work,
isn't it? Though.
Yeah. I mean, OnlyFans would be a dream. I mean, imagine if Eric and I did like a couple's OnlyFans things. Like, I'd quit real estate.
Oh my God, I have the perfect thing that you should do.
What?
You guys need to do all your OnlyFans things, doing workout positions naked in real estate, in really good real estate, like on a marble.
I know this.
A new kitchen.
I'm like, is that going to interfere?
Listen, I saw you sold a house, a beautiful house in Lake Arrowhead.
Yeah.
That was kind of like, I don't know, old-fashioned Victorian. So you get in an outfit like that, and then you just lift up the bustle, and it's like he's coming from you behind, but you're like in a claw tub. Come on.
If you don't think that we have had a few glasses of wine and discussed this, and I have actually been like, I mean,
so much easier.
I'm only going to have this for so much longer. Like, I've worked really hard. We could break up. Like, we need to capitalize while we can before this is all done.
And then you could go home to your daughters and say,
listen,
had you been on the show a little bit more and listened to what, if you had agreed to me
are you
telling
pissed
you
at the $10 million in my bank account? Or are you mad that I dressed up like a Victorian hooker? I don't know.
I did have my son tell me, Mom, will we never get to a point where you have to get an OnlyFans account? And I said no. But then there was some article about some mom who had 3 boys and she's in a Catholic school. She's a Catholic
had an
mom.
OnlyFans account?
OnlyFans, she's in Sacramento. And they kicked her and her boys out of school, so it got some press. And
they kicked her out of school?
Yes, which I think is awful.
She should sue.
Well, I think she is or something.
Good for her.
But it was mostly, but they have it's a private school, so they have a moral clause. But it's like, who knew you had the account?
How about all that?
So what creepy dad at the Halloween carnival was like looking you up and
100%.
told?
And what creepy dad is like sleeping with the hookers on the side?
Right, exactly.
I mean, at least this is, for everyone's enjoyment.
Anyway, she was making $150 a month. $150,000 a month.
This is bullshit.
So then my kids were like,
Heather,
Mom,
let's sort it out.
I know.
You would not mind. Peter, $150 a month? Come on.
Let's do it.
Right? Suck it up. It's for the greater good. We need to retire.
Oh my God. Anyway, this was so fun. I'm excited. So the show, you're filming the reunion. I mean the finale. You guys don't have reunions, do you?
No. No,
It's not
we've
necessary.
done the show. I mean, I think it'd be a riot because you get to talk about. I always say why we don't have a blooper reel
Yeah.
is beyond me because we give each other so much shit on that show.
Well, they should do that they're doing this thing now that I really love on Bravo is like the never before scenes.
I love that.
So hopefully
stuff.
you guys will have
We haven't
that.
really done that.
Those are like gems. I used to like skip them, and now I'm like, that's kind of the best parts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm highly inappropriate when they say cut. So
Yeah.
there's some really funny stuff with like flag all the time.
Yeah.
It'd be a great after hour special.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This was really great. And tell everybody where they can follow you. And
Well, hopefully you guys they will announce the premiere of $1 Million Listing Los Angeles season 13 very, very soon. I am anticipating this summer. And I will let them, announce that first. You can find me on Instagram at Tracy Tutor. And obviously online, my website's tracytutor.com.
And any advice for a new realtor that is not on TV and is just like listening? What would be your advice? They're starting their career.
Get a TV show. I'm just kidding. Pitch a new real estate show to a network. No, I wouldn't do it. Like, unless you're really serious about it. I'm serious. Like, I know people think what our job is easy.
Yeah.
It is a living hell. Like,
Yeah.
we deal with different personalities every day. It is not a 40-hour week. It is a 70-hour week. I have calls at 10 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock in the morning.
So there was your inspiration, people.
Yeah,
don't do it.
Like, we make a lot of money, but we've also been doing it a very long time. And anyone that is married or has gone out with us will tell you that the hours that we work are bananas. And it's a lot. You can't be like a half model, half real estate agent. Like, it doesn't work that way.
But you can do half OnlyFans.
Yes, you can
half
add,
real estate.
You can add OnlyFans, once you are established enough.
Yeah. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.